So is Aaron Rodgers still good? Well, I mean, yes, no doubt about it. I mean, he was definitely good last year, but is he still as good as he once was? Maybe that's the better thesis for this video. Well, I mean, he just barely was able to clear 4,000 yards. Usually he easily clears it, and he had just 26 interceptions. Both of these are good numbers, but not exactly fantastic. Although, Rodgers has never been the best in terms of bulk stats, anyways, so maybe you shouldn't pay attention to that too much. I mean, he only averaged 7.0 yards per attempt. In his career, he averages 7.7, so okay, that's down a little bit. So, that's notable. Instead of his average of 260 yards per game, he averaged just 250. So, there's definitely numbers across the board that have dropped off slightly. But the one number that is very interesting to look at is actually from the past 2 seasons. And that's that he just had 6 interceptions in the past 2 years, which is just incredible. And I'm not talking 6 each year, I mean 6 total. He had 2 in 2018 and 4 in 2019. Aaron Rodgers, in my opinion, has not lost a step. Aaron Rodgers has changed his game to some degree, but he is just as good as he ever has been. And so that's what I'm going to be talking about in this video. And we'll start things off with this play. It's going to be a cover 2 zone, and there's going to be 2 receivers running deep. So this is actually pretty good against this type of coverage. There's only one player who is deep. He's going to cover the middle of the field. So this could leave another Green Bay player open. And after the ball is snapped, it's working out pretty well. I mean, you do have to give credit to Minnesota here. A player realized what's going on and is going to stay deep to try to take away that deep play, but there is a bit of a window right here where Rodgers could make this throw. And again, for Rodgers, this is a dilemma, right? Because you don't want to just fire it straight in there. There still are a lot of Vikings in the area. Maybe one could break over and get an interception, and you're in the red zone. You don't want an interception. So where do you place this ball? Well, you place it high. And watch how that's exactly what he's going to do. He puts it in a perfect spot where if that wasn't a touchdown, it was an incompletion. There was a 0% chance that that was going to be an interception. And people always talk about with Rodgers, it's like, oh, he doesn't take chances. Well, no. I mean, he just is smart enough to diminish those chances incredibly low and make the throws that he can make that'll be plays like that where it's either going to be a positive play or nothing at all, which is incredibly valuable. And as he's getting older, he's just getting smarter and smarter. And so, okay, he's getting older though, right? So his mobility is probably terrible now, right? Or at least not as good. Well, not exactly. I mean, like this play. It's a cover 3 zone. Rodgers is going to run play action, run down to the bottom of the screen, and he has a receiver running over the middle. Again, nothing too fancy, pretty simple concept. You guys have probably seen it a lot if you've watched a lot of my videos. And, Rodgers fakes the handoff, and he's running. And the good news is there's some separation with the receiver there. The bad news is there's not much separation between Rodgers and a defensive lineman. Because, Rodgers is in immediate pressure. And keep in mind, he's a right-handed quarterback. So for him to try and make this throw is incredibly difficult right now. However, off balance on the run, he is still able to make an incredibly accurate throw, and they're able to get the first down right there, even though, he had such little room to work with. He basically had to run at a full sprint and make a throw. I mean, that wasn't just on the run. That was him sprinting and then being able to make the throw where he couldn't really square his shoulders up. Again, I don't know how many quarterbacks in the league make that throw. Maybe Mahomes, and maybe not. That's just, again, you talk about his highlight reel level plays are just spectacular. Well, that's what you mean. I mean, just truly a remarkable play. Okay, so let's transition a little bit. I'm not just going to show incredible plays for the whole video, although I definitely could. I also want to talk about certain topics, and we'll use both playoff games that they played in to really talk about those topics. The first is, of course, the Seattle game, the one that they won. And I really did feel like Rodgers' high football IQ really factored in this game. Like on this play, it's going to be a cover 1 hole, and they have a receiver running a slant route over the middle. So, okay, typically on this type of play, what do? You get rid of the ball very quickly. That's what makes sense. And Rodgers doesn't know this is the cover 1 hole, but it seems likely that this is a good chance that's what it is. There's one safety deep. It is man coverage. So, it makes sense that Rodgers could throw it there. And typically, what you're going to do is you're either going to have the player in the middle of the field stay back and be in coverage or just rush the passer. So either way, if Rodgers throws this ball quickly, it'll almost always be open. But not always, just almost always. And this is one of the exceptions. You notice how they still have a player who's dropping back into coverage, but instead of over the middle of the field, he's going to be a little bit further down. They're trying to fool Rodgers here, trying to get him to make a throw quickly and just make a mistake, throw an interception, maybe a pick six. It's not a bad play call at all. I actually kind of like this play call. I think teams should do this kind of thing more often. However, Rodgers is probably not the best guy to do it against because he notices this, then does wait, makes the throw at the perfect time, and they get the first down. It's really interesting because typically you wouldn't want to wait, but in this one exception to the rule, he did want to wait, and he did a perfect job at that. Really just a smart play by him, really good aware play, and that's just kind of what he did against Seattle. I thought that him and LaFleur, really more so than them having much more talent than Seattle, they really just outsmarted Seattle, I thought. It was one of the better offensive game plans of the entire season, I thought. And the game plan was great, but also just Rodgers and his IQ in the game was also great. This play is another example. This time it's once again a cover one play, and a similar play to what I showed you last time, although this one's a lot more traditional. And they have a tight end running over the middle. That's where Rodgers is going to want to throw this ball to. Maybe it could get open. But what happens is that right after this ball is snapped, what you're going to notice is that so there's two Seattle players in the area. And basically what you typically do is that whichever way the tight end runs closest to, whichever player the tight end runs closest to, that's the guy who's going to cover him. The other guy just takes away, the middle of the field. But because he's kind of running equally in between both of them, again, good play call by LaFleur saying, hey, try to get in between them as quick as possible, right in the middle and as quick as possible, so that way maybe they make a mistake, and it worked out. Both of those Seattle players are thinking that they should be covering the middle of the field instead of covering Jimmy Graham right there. And so because of that, now what Rodgers can do is simply just throw it over the top, and Graham is able to make the catch and pick up a big gain. It was also a very accurate throw, but just, again, a smart play, understanding the situation. LaFleur did a good job. Honestly, I'm a big LaFleur fan. I might make a video on him later. I think he's incredibly underrated. But I also think that Rodgers, at this point, is probably a bit underrated himself because, again, his ability to make those quick reads is very important. So, okay, one more playoff game to talk about. And as we all remember, the Green Bay Packers got completely blown out. They never stood a chance. Their offense never got anything going. Their defense gave up touchdowns on every drive. It was just a complete mess, right? Well, yes and no. They did get blown out badly in the first half, but it was actually a competitive game in the second half. At one point, Green Bay got the score to being just a 14-point game in the fourth quarter, and they had a chance where it was like, hey, if we can get a 3-and-out, a score, a 3-and-out, and a score, we'll tie the game. Didn't quite work out that way. They gave up a field goal, and then Green Bay was not able to score. Rodgers threw an interception. Again, this was not Rodgers' best game. I'm not going to pretend it was. He threw 2 interceptions. One was in desperation. The other was a bad one. He also went 31 for 39 with 326 yards and a pair of touchdowns as well. So this, despite the fact that, he had 31 for 39, I would still say it wasn't his best game, but really, he had some incredible throws in this game. And this one's an example where, okay, similar to what I've shown earlier, receiver runs over the middle, Rodgers runs play action, runs out to the top of the screen, tries to make a throw. And after the ball is snapped, what you're going to notice is that there is some separation, but not a lot. The one advantage is it's a receiver going up against the linebacker, so you have that speed thing there. But also, if you look at Rodgers, there's multiple 49ers players that are approaching him quickly, so he has to make a throw very quickly as well. But that's what he's going to do. He makes a very accurate throw while, he kind of he couldn't totally put all of his all into it, was kind of on the move. Again, just these unbelievable type plays that it's hard to really, it's just like, how do you even make that kind of thing? And that's what he was able to do throughout, select parts of the season. He maybe didn't make these, oh my God, plays as much as he had made in past years, but that's not because he wasn't as good. That's because he wasn't asked to do that as much this season. He also still has his deep ball, by the way. So he's not like, unable to throw the ball down the field like on this play. It's a one-on-one matchup, going to be running deep. And right after the ball is snapped, Rodgers does take a chance, look in that direction because it's worth taking a chance. And, the receiver is about even with Sherman. He's going to say, okay, this is worth it. Let's take a shot here. And keep in mind, he's at his own 5-yard line right here. He's going to throw this ball deep. And look at where this is. It's pinpoint accuracy from 50 yards away. I mean, just absolutely ridiculous. And again, they lost this game. Part of it was Rodgers' fault. He threw a bad interception in the first half. They weren't able to get much going. It took them a bit to get going. But at the same time, I mean, Rodgers clearly, I think, still has the fastball, so to speak. I mean, there's somehow this narrative that Rodgers doesn't have it anymore. But at the same time, let's just think about this. He can still move in the pocket. He can still throw the ball deep. He still has accuracy. He's got higher football IQ than he ever has. So what has he lost? People keep saying numbers have gone down. But if numbers have gone down, but on the tape he still has everything, then he's not getting old. He's just maybe had a down year. Maybe certain things happened that caused numbers to go down. Maybe a new head coach with a new system that likes to run the ball a lot has caused some of his bulk stats to go down. I don't know. I mean, quite frankly, if you're going to throw for 4,000 yards, 26 touchdowns, and just 4 interceptions, and that's your bad year, well, sign me up, quite frankly, because I think that what he's doing is fantastic. But you know what? That's just my opinion. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think that, something that you've seen has deteriorated? I haven't seen it, but, maybe you've seen something differently and you can bring that to my attention. But, I mean, that's just my opinion. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And, of course, as always, thanks for watching.